Summarizing everything that has happened here in the past couple weeks into just one video is seemingly quite difficult. I don't know exactly where to start. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to navigate this conversation. But I think that the interesting nature of what has happened to me has provided a very interesting realization about life, which I feel is worthwhile for you guys to hear. So that's why I want to share this. I'm going to start off just kind of summarizing exactly what happened to me, kind of discuss where I am going to be going forward, and then share that realization that I've had. January 28th, I had just uploaded a video about distraction. And I noticed that I was having this back pain. I didn't really think anything of it. It was noticeable enough to think that maybe I pulled a muscle, but not enough to think this is anything of concern. Wednesday rolls around. So the 28th was a Sunday. Wednesday rolls around. And I'll be honest, I'm younger, so typically I recover pretty quickly. So the fact that I was still feeling it on Wednesday was starting to begin some sort of cause of concern. But again, I was just stretching more, trying to be hydrated. I thought that at some point this would go away. Thursday rolls around, and I can't even describe the exhaustion I was feeling. So incredibly tired. So I ended up taking like a 3 or 4 hour nap. I honestly could have probably slept for like 8 hours. I wake up, I kind of go about my day. I go do a little walk. I noticed that that really drained me. Thought maybe I'm just really behind on sleep. But Thursday night rolls around, and this is February 1st now, and I end up coughing up blood. And it just keeps happening. So I'm definitely concerned. I look at these things. I'm not in a ton of pain, so I'm thinking, maybe this is just some pneumonia is kind of what like Google was saying. So I ended up just trying to go to sleep, scheduling an appointment to see the doctor the next day. I wake up with very bad rib pain on my left side. I'm thinking, this is weird. Things are not going good here. But thankfully, I have a doctor's appointment. So I go in to see the doctor. We get an x-ray. It looks like I do have some inflammation in my lungs. He thinks it's probably just walking pneumonia. Nothing he's concerned about, which is great for me to hear, which is interesting to just take a moment and pause to think, when I heard that, I started feeling better. So it's interesting to see what your mind can do to the physical state that your body is feeling. So he gives me this light antibiotic. He says, in terms of our conversation, I just don't want you to run a marathon in the next month. So that shows how little he's kind of concerned about this. So the next day rolls around. I start feeling a bit worse. That rib pain is really starting to be noticeable. Don't think anything of it. I think the antibiotics might just take a little bit of time to kick in. Sunday rolls around, and I am starting to feel immense pain. That rib pain is kind of undescribable. The best way that I can kind of show it to you guys is if you have your lung, imagine somebody is grabbing the bottom half and doing it so tight that you can only breathe through this little channel. Instead of having your whole lung, now you just have this window. But each time I was breathing, the hand would go further up. So the little channel was decreasing. Thankfully, I found that if I laid on my opposite side, it kind of released the pain on my left, and then I could kind of sit back up and act a little bit more normal. I wear a Whoop, so it tracks my heart rate variability, my sleep performance, my respiratory rate. I can't recommend it enough, honestly, but this was like honestly kind of a lifesaver because it showed that I had my first 1% recovery. Typically, my recovery is around 65 to 90%. My HRV is typically lower. It's around 60 to 75. I think that it was 14. So it kind of shows you how much my body really was struggling. So I end up going to my actual doctor the next day. He thinks this is probably a more severe case of pneumonia and gives me much stronger antibiotics. Wednesday rolls around. I can't describe how bad that rib pain is. I was gasping for air consistently. I was kind of just living on my right side. Again, with the Whoop, it was showing I was getting about 3 to 6 6 hours was kind of a great night's sleep. I was typically getting about 3 hours of sleep. Friday, February 4th, or February 9th, I apologize. The pain was unbelievable. I it's again so incredibly hard to explain how immense the pain was. And unfortunately, it went to my right side. So now I have my left and my right. I couldn't lay on either side, so I couldn't find that comfort. I would have these moments where it felt like I was getting both lungs grabbed, and I just had this short window. It was the night that, or was it the time period that my Whoop showed me that I had a 1% recovery with an HRV of 12. I slept for about an hour that night. Thankfully, my mom was there because she could see that how bad I was gasping for air. It was almost an out-of-body experience. I truly had my first thoughts of, maybe something severe is going to happen. So it's an interesting mindset to be in of thinking, I hope my family's going to be okay. It was really painful. So we end up going to the hospital. They look at the x-rays. Again, they're like, it's very inflamed. They think the pneumonia again. But they end up doing, and I really apologize, I think it's like a CT scan or maybe an ultrasound. I don't really know. They did something of my lungs. And they found that I might have had pneumonia on top of the underlying issue that I actually have bilateral pulmonary embolism, which is blood clots in your lungs. And I actually had 10 blood clots in each lung, or spread amongst each lung. So when I heard that, it's very scary because I have no idea how that happened. Where else are the blood clots too, is what I was thinking. So February 9th, I go into the hospital. They put me on a ton of pain medication. Again, another out-of-body experience. That felt horrible. On a bunch of oxygen, a bunch of just all different kinds of things. Thankfully, what helped was blood thinners. So they thinned down my blood to be able to prevent more blood clots from happening, and it kind of let my body start doing the defense mechanism on the blood clots I currently have. So I was able to get out of the hospital on February 12th, but we have no idea how it happened. We have absolutely no clue. I've taken blood. We're just kind of waiting on the results. So I'm in this interesting time period where I do feel better. So the pain is no longer there. It's hard for me to be able to get a full breath. I'm still having to recover from that. But I'm in this period where, I don't know what happened. It's my life just kind of completely changed and I have no cause. And I also won't feel normal, which I'm about to talk about, until like April. So I kind of just have to sit here and feel like a shell of myself. I tried to do 10 push-ups recently. It was about the hardest thing that I've had to do. I get sore curling 15-pound dumbbells. Typically, I do 45 or 50. So it's very difficult to see, this kind of happens so quickly. But I'm thankful that I'm doing better. We're going to find out whatever it is that's happening. So that's kind of that part of what happened to me. Now, the realization is what I believe what I just went through makes it worthwhile. When we think of, and I talk a lot about being present, we think about typically when you're present, you're in a emotional period of joy, happiness, or gratitude, whatever it is that you want to say. And during that period of like bliss, you don't think about anything else. You are completely aligned. But whenever you feel sad, angry, frightened, overwhelmed, all of these different things, our mind kicks in and we begin to think, man, I just can't wait until I feel normal. Or you look around and you think, everybody else is so happy. Why can't I be like them? Again, outside. Why does this have to happen to me? Victim mindset, putting it outside. And what I'm realizing during this period is that I wake up each day and I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel afraid. Um, but that's no different than happy. It's no different than joyful. It's no different than all of these other things because they're just emotions. That's all it is. What's different is that my mind kicks in for one thing because it thinks I'm in danger. The interesting thing is that I've had enough kind of practice on kind of shutting off my mind that I'm walking around just with these states of feeling sad and angry and scared. And I'm realizing, you know, I'm still present in the moment. I can't think at some point I will be normal again. I will never be normal again. I'm going to come out of this far stronger. I'm going to come out of this with new perspectives. I'm going to come out of this with so many different things. And so what I'm realizing is, and I think that that's kind of a hard disconnect whenever you say be present, because and I have dealt with depression and I've dealt with anxiety. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying live in sadness, live in anger. We don't want sadness to turn to depression. We don't want anger to turn into rage. We don't want feeling anxious to turn into anxiety. But to have this level of, let me sit with this emotion that I'm feeling. There is no good, there is no bad. I apologize. I'm kind of doing this off the cusp, so I kind of lost track of what I was talking about. But it's interesting to be just sitting here, feeling this emotion, and realizing I have to just deal with this now. I'm starting to realize that emotions are like debt. If I don't face it now, I will have to pay it at some point with interest. Some of you know that my grandpa recently passed away. What I didn't really explain was that the only point I grieved was when I made that video. As soon as I got the call that he passed away, I worked out within the next 15 minutes. I thought, he is in a better place. What good is it for me to feel sad? I realized that he's in a better place, so I don't deserve to give myself the grace to grieve. But I noticed that when I was laying in the hospital, the emotion that I had, that I wanted to express when my grandpa passed away, was ever more present during that period of just laying in the hospital. Because I couldn't imagine what it was that he was feeling. And I missed him so much, and I wanted him to be there. And so not only was I having to deal with everything I was dealing with, but I was having to grieve my grandpa's passing at that moment because I didn't do it prior. So, whenever we are feeling present with whatever emotion, typically with happiness and joy, you don't have to create guidelines. But because we don't want sadness to turn into depression, anger to turn into rage, all of these things, we need to begin to put guidelines to kind of help us stay within the boundaries of these things. And thankfully, again, this experience has been so diverse. Give me just a moment. Thankfully, this experience has been so diverse that I have been able to get the tools to be able to keep me within boundaries. Again, I was feeling this pain so immensely that I'm thinking I couldn't imagine something worse. I'm sorry to say that there's a lot of things that I could have imagined being worse, but at that moment, nothing could have, hurt worse than that. I'm very blessed that my nurses that I had were very open with me, and they actually talked to me like, in a way that I don't think that they would just talk to everyone. And so 2 of the individuals I talked to were talking about how their kids were severely struggling with mental health issues. Another lady that, she was calling me her prince, and she was calling me that it's like I was an actor, and made me feel so incredibly welcome. And she was the night shift nurse. I found out that she was from the Philippines, and she gets to see her kids two months out of the year. And all that she hopes is that she's making them proud. And so I'm laying there in the worst pain I have ever experienced. And at that moment, I just feel so much empathy and so much affection and so much other emotions for these other individuals. And I have gratitude to myself that I'm not experiencing that my pain is less than what it is that they're having to experience. But the important thing in this is that whenever we talk about gratitude, we typically say, I'm grateful that something else isn't happening that's worse, or I should always just feel good about everything that's happening in my life because it could always be worse. But what we're doing is we're shortchanging what it is that we're feeling. So I was able to realize what I am feeling is incredibly painful, and it sucks, and I don't like it, I don't want to be here. All of these things suck. But I'm also grateful that I'm not in their shoes, and that I can just send them love and empathy. I was able to realize what it is that I have and that I don't like it, but also be able to give love and be thankful for where I am. I think with gratitude, we have to realize that whatever our truth is, whatever it is that we're experiencing, if we believe it to suck, let's acknowledge that it sucks, but also be grateful that it's not worse. So that's kind of like a little guideline, is perspective and gratitude. The other one is actually grieving. And that is to further discuss that whatever emotion you have that you do not address, you will have to pay at some point, no matter what. I think that's what really is the root cause of a lot of anxiety. Like I kind of was talking about with my grandpa, I had to pay it. It was going to come at some point. So if I don't sit here and I don't grieve the fact that I am an entirely different person than I was 3 weeks ago, if I just think at some point I'll be good again, or, I just live in the future, at some point I'm going to have to deal with what truly has been a very traumatic experience, and something that, again, I don't know how to navigate my day truly. It's very challenging for me. So instead of me just trying to be like, let's just continue to go forward, at some point I'm going to wake up and feel good again. I'm going to go each day and be like, this sucks, but what can I learn from it? What can I process through this? Let me stay here in the moment to show myself I'm not abandoning you. I'm not going to just run away mentally and let my physical body just rot in the background. I think a way to maybe put this into another point of view that maybe you guys can reference is I personally struggle with physical affection, typically outside of closed doors. So if we're out in a social interaction, I'm not good with hugging. I don't like holding hands. I don't like being touched. The reason is when I was in high school with my parents, I had very long duration of very traumatic experiences with a girl that I was dating of showing any sort of physical affection. It was too monitored. It was too unhealthy. It was a very bad experience. But during that time, I was thinking, I can't wait until I get older. I will never let this happen when I'm an adult. I will never let this happen to my kid. But in reality, I grew up. I became the adult. But I was never there for myself. So now I'm dealing with the wounds of the past. I need to show myself that I'm there for you. I have to go back, be present, and tell my younger self it's okay to show physical affection. It's okay to feel like you can hug someone. It's okay to feel like you can shake somebody's hand. It's this thing that I know the exact root cause, but I continuously just run away from it because it's difficult, it's challenging. It makes me feel something and my brain kicks in and thinks, we can't handle this. You have to handle it. That is the reality. You have to grieve whatever it is that has caused you pain. And do it for as long as you can, and then kind of take a step back. But I feel like most of you know through my experiences through anxiety, how severe it was. The reason that I was able to overcome it and learn that anxiety is a great tool is because I sat there in the storm each and every day. I did not abandon myself. So I think that I probably missed a lot of things that I would have liked to have talked about. But again, this is all just kind of challenging. So I hope that it provides some sort of value to you. But the key takeaways is no matter what's happening in our lives, we cannot continuously go forward. I think we always strive to have happiness and joy and gratitude and all of these things. And I think that that is a great place to be. But I think that if we can find a way for it to be just as equivalent to feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling distraught and overwhelmed, then you truly become powerful, because you're not striving for paradise, you become paradise. I got that from my dad. So you're able to embody peace because you're not striving for anything. Whenever it becomes depression, anxiety, rage, that means that we didn't grieve that period of time properly. We didn't handle it. So we need to take more time, more effort, more kindness, more of this time with ourselves to show, I am not leaving you. I'm going to stay here with you until we figure this out. And then we just need to be able to have perspective. What it is that I'm going through sucks, but I am so grateful that I am doing better. I am so grateful that I am who I am and that I'm going to learn from this. But to be able to still acknowledge, I don't like where I am right now. So it's kind of this balance, and it's perfectly fine. Everything will be perfectly fine as long as we stand there with ourselves, show ourselves kindness, show ourselves just grace to be able to handle these things. I hope all is well. Thank you so much for taking your time to be able to watch this. It was a little bit more selfish of me talking about all of these things. I don't know if I provided as much value to you, but everything's going good. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
What was that? The weather. Very peculiar, don't you think?
Yeah. Looks like the winds are changing.
Change is good.
Yeah, but it's not easy. I know what I have to do, but going back means I'll have to face my past. I've been running from it for so long. Ow! Jeez, what was that for?
It doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Yeah, but it still hurts.
Oh, yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. You see? So what are you going to do?
First, I'm gonna take your stick.
No, not a stick. Hey, where are you going?
I'm going back!
Good! Go on! Get out of here!